What happens when a man trained by the CIA to deal with only facts comes to face with something he can't explain? Welcome back to the Common Historian. I'm Jeremy, and tonight I'm sitting down with retired CIA officer and paranormal author Scott M. Baker, a man who went from a skeptic to a believer. And the
Yeah.
story of how that happened is something you'll want to hear. So let's get started. Welcome, Scott. How are you today?
Jeremy, I'm great. And Jeremy, thank you for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. I know we met at the Vermont Horror,
Yeah.
Sci-Fi, and Fantasy Expo. You were on the panel that I was hosting, and I thought your story was great. And I saw your what different books you have, so I figured it would be nice to have you on, and we'll explore things.
Sure. Ask anything you want. As far as it's not classified, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you're a CIA officer for 23 years.
23 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Where did the paranormal fall on your belief scale back then?
I never really considered. At that time, I was more focused on, like, when I was reading or studying, it was the countries I was working against. I knew a lot about North Korea, China, Iran, Iraq. It wasn't until after I retired from the actually, no, it was near the end of my retirement from the agency that I started getting hooked on horror novels. I had tried to write, I had written a really good techno thriller about North Korea gaining nuclear weapons. They said, okay, if you do not if you do not leave South Korea so we can take over, we're going to detonate them in the States. And it was picked up by a agent. He called me a couple of months later and said that it was with one of the top five publishers in New York. And then 9/11 hit and the market dried up. So a few years later, I started writing horror and I started to get into it. But I was never really, when I was writing zombies and vampires.
Yeah.
And the only time, the event that sort of got me interested in paranormal was I had lost a family pet, a rabbit that I really loved. And you thought some friends of mine were having this pet forum where they were selling pet products you could adopt. They had animals there for adoption. And there was a pet paranormal psychologist. And I thought, I'm going to give it a shot. I figured it's all BS because, my wife at the time loved watching the paranormal TV shows. And I'm sorry, you don't walk into a 12th century Hungarian castle speaking in English and expect them to answer you. And so I went, we were sitting there. And of course, she talked to the pet. Oh, the pet loved me. The pet appreciated everything I did and all that. And then she stopped and she's looking up in the corner and she asked me, did you have a father who died recently? And I went, no. She was like, what about an uncle or a close family member? And none of that fit. So then she described this gentleman who wanted to talk to me. He was like confused about where he was. Turned out she described a good friend of mine who had died 6 months previously of a coronary. Walked out to walk his dog in the backyard, passed away like that. And that opened my eyes because no one except my ex-wife knew about that. And she's looking at me like, you gotta be kidding me. So there was no way this woman could have faked this.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was okay, there is definitely something out there. And then when I started doing the paranormal books, I started doing more research. I went on more paranormal investigations so I could get experience. And that's when I started having a lot of other experiences. So I'm convinced it's out there. Like I said, if it's on the History Channel, I don't buy it. It's BS. But there definitely are spirits out there who are talking to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I recently went to the Wildwood Sanitarium in New York, in southern New York, and I'd lived in a haunted house prior, but it's really It was my first time I went to investigate, and it's really cool how I used one of those little cat ball things,
Yeah.
and you could beforehand I put it on the table. I stomped up all around the table to make sure it wouldn't make it go off. And then I started talking to it, and on command, the cat ball would go off. It was the coolest thing ever.
One of my humorous stories, I had gone to, and I'm sorry, I forgot to research this, but there was a Captain Whiting house in Connecticut. And the house has a reputation for being haunted, not in an evil way.
Yeah,
The captain bought the house. This was, I think, late 1800s. He was a tradesman. He went out to sea, would come back, and he never returned. He was lost at sea at one point. And the history is that the house is haunted. There's a graveyard across from it, which apparently has paranormal spirits. And I did the graveyard tour. Absolutely nothing. Nobody saw anything. So I'm sitting with the gentleman, and he is a well qualified. He was on that, I think it was the Netflix TV show, like 30 Days in the House, in which everybody went to a particular location and stayed there for 30 days. And we're sitting in the dining room, the lights are out, there's like about 15 of us, and all of a sudden the indicator box started to go to green. So he goes, is there a presence here? Yes, it was. He was asking questions. Oh, oh, sorry.
oh, that's all right.
So after the cemetery, we went to the house, and I was sitting there. There was about 15 of us. There was a gentleman, good paranormal expert. He was on that TV show that Netflix had. I think it was like 30 days in the house, where different groups sat and spent 30 days in a residence. And he's calling to see if there was anyone there. And all of a sudden, the green light on the indicator started flashing. So there was a presence there. So he says, okay, who are you? There was no answer. He said, so after a minute or two, he goes, who were you here for? And the voice went, Baker. And
Oh,
everyone's looking around. What? And I says, oh, that's me. I'm Baker. So, and he goes, what do you want with Baker? The voice box went, death. So I'm still here, so I don't know. Maybe it was a different baker he wanted. Maybe he was just trying to scare me. But it was funny because like people closest to me started moving their chairs away.
that's funny. Now, your different experiences, have they shaped the way you write about the paranormal or your horror books?
Not the horror novels. Actually, one experience wasn't me. My second wife was very attuned to the afterworld. And we were both World War II historians. So we would travel to different locations. And of course, being battlefields and that, she was always feeling a presence. But one time we went to visit the Nazi death camp Treblinka in Eastern Poland. 100,000 people. This was not one of those camps where they exterminated people and used the rest for slave labor. This was, if you showed up at the camp door, you were dead. And she felt very awkward as we were walking around, and we were walking through the main part of the compound. And when she reached the place where not the crematorium, where the gas chamber was, she all of a sudden had trouble breathing and ran away. And I by now learned if she runs away from something and waves her hands, I leave her alone. And she told me later that when she got to that point, thousands of voices were calling out to her, trying to describe what happened so their story would be told. And I actually turned that experience into one of my paranormal novels, The Ghost of Treblinka.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Yes.
we've had a lot of experiences like that. We went to visit once the Bendler Block Strasse in Berlin. That's where, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Valkyrie, but that is where the July 20th conspirators launched a plot to assassinate Hitler. And the attempt failed, but 5 or 6 of them were taken into the courtyard and were executed. While we were reading some of the signage explaining what happened, she felt somebody, one of those 5 that were executed, pulling her towards the location where the execution took place. So it's
Wow.
definite. I am not attuned to that. They'll reach out to me. Certain spirits will reach. I've been caught, or I've felt the presence of my father several times. I've seen out of the corner of my eye cats that have crossed Rainbow Bridge around. But other than that, a spirit could be standing behind me, hit me with a 2x4. I would have no clue.
Yeah. Yeah. I can sometimes sense them. I can feel I'm not, but I can't see them either. So your Tatiana series covers Salem, asylums, ocean liners. Did you visit these locations while you were researching?
The first one, Eden Hollow, was the introductory one. And I just picked this town in Vermont, Eden
Oh,
Hollow. I looked at it I looked at it on Google Maps, who there was a big mansion. I didn't realize until I started doing the Vermont Paranormal, Eden Hollow's 20 minutes away. So that got a lot of people excited. The cruise ship was completely made up. But I did talk to Coast Guard. A friend of mine was a Coast Guard, but he was telling me he read through it. This is not how we operate a ship, etc. And the Bethlehem Asylum one is a fake place. However, it's why I call it Bethlehem Asylum, because that was the name of the London institution that we now know as Bedlam.
oh,
So on that one, I researched very heavily what those patients went through in the 1940s. So every incident, like I did the same thing with Treblinka. I researched heavily what those people went through when they arrived at and every story in Treblinka is based on an actual incident that I've read. So you're actually getting the feel. Now, for Salem Village, yes, I have visited there. I went to college, Salem State. Uh,
okay.
I loved the Salem witch trials, but I hate the way Hollywood portrays witches. Except for the
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus, they're cool.
Yeah.
So what I did was I visited a lot of the locations. You can go to my website and you can find like you can find where I've gone out and photographed where Salem jail was, where the trials were held. There's a old tavern that's now a private home in Danvers where the initial accusations were made. But I went through the transcripts of the trials. So on the flashback scenes, what those people went through is actually what happened to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Salem, I've never been. It's on
Yeah.
my bucket list. I will make
Oh,
it there someday.
don't go in October. You will never. Oh, it's ridiculous. And it was funny
Oh, I know.
because I was going to college in the 1980s. And if you mention the Salem witch trials, they'd be like, oh, no, we don't talk about that. We're a maritime community. Now you can't walk through the downtown Salem in October because there's so many people.
A couple of years ago, I went to Sleepy Hollow during October, and that was crazy.
Yeah.
I could just imagine because I've been told that Salem is 10 to 15 times more busy than Sleepy Hollow is
Yeah.
in October.
You can do the research. For example, when I in the 1980s, Gallows Hill was just it was the hill behind I think it was not Walmart, it was a Walgreens.
Walgreens,
And
yeah.
yeah, they had fenced it off because they didn't want people up there. Now, I went back several years ago at the bottom of the hill where the actual executions took place. They now have a memorial with the names of all of the victims that were hanged at Gallows Hill. And they give Salem credit. They're not just pimping it for profit. They came to the realization what had happened. It was a part of history. They didn't do an exorcism, but what I think they did was they had a priest come in, bless the souls if they were still there, tell them they can move on. And they actually admit what happened. But yeah,
Yeah.
you got to be careful where you go because there was like one old church that did this high school reenactment of the Salem witch trials. And then they'd take you down to the basement where they had a paper mache. They'd have this paper mache setup of what they thought the prisons looked like that the witches were confined in.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I've heard of that. I've heard that too.
Yeah.
I saw that a couple weeks ago, or that I guess the Warren Museum is moving to Salem. So
I
Annabelle's going to Salem.
I saw that. That would be awesome. I got to see the Annabelle Museum when it was on tour. It came to Rhode Island.
Oh,
And
okay.
the Annabelle, they showed the original Annabelle, but it was in a locked case, and it was like you couldn't get within 30 feet of it. And then they had beside it the Annabelle from the movies. Oh yeah, that place was absolutely crowded. Everybody was there taking pictures of it. And
Yeah.
there was so much more to it than just Annabelle. There was the history, other things they had done. So yeah, if they when they open the Warren Museum, I highly recommend, if you like paranormal, go see it.
Yeah. If I make the Salem, it'll be on my list. My daughter won't join me. She refused. She does not like Annabelle. She does
Oh,
not want to go anywhere near Annabelle. She's told me that if any paranormal conferences I go to has Annabelle, she will not be attending with me because she attended the Vermont one with me. But she
yeah.
did ask, "Is Annabelle going to be there?" I said, "No, she's not going to be there."
And a lot of people are terrified of it, but as long as you don't go up and tap on the glass and give it the
Yeah,
finger, I think you'll probably be okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it would be cool to at least see her once, someday. And my puppies were just being naughty a minute ago. I don't know if you heard it at all, but
No,
they
I
were
did.
no, okay. Yeah, they were there. They like to be a little naughty sometimes in the background, but
Fred loves to be the center of attention. So
oh yeah, yeah. Now, if I you had another kind of supernatural, is it Office of Supernatural Services? Is that one of yours?
Office of Supernatural Services. It was, like I said earlier, I'm a huge World War II historian. And I started this book because I wanted to, there is so many things about Nazi occultism. I'd actually originally written a book called Operation Majestic, which was my second wife was a huge Ancient Aliens fan. I'm petting the cat who wants attention. And she made me watch all of that. And I was World War II buff. So Operation Majestic was what really happened at Roswell. And it's this bizarre, if anybody buys it, it'll be Sci-Fi Channel. It's about July 1947. Hitler is having the time of his life. He obtained nuclear weapons, knocked out the Soviet Union. Britain surrendered. World War II never happened. July 1947, a UFO lands at Roswell. The alien gets out and says, "This is not the timeline." The Vril Damen, and if anybody has read about them, they apparently supposedly contacted aliens. So in this case, they contacted the reptilians who were helping the Egyptians build the pyramids, and they made a deal. We'll take you back in time and give you nuclear weapons, and we want Siberia so we can mine it. That's how it happened. So the good aliens send a team of US soldiers back to ancient Egypt to stop the Nazis. And what I did was, like all of these bizarre conspiracy theories, I moved into the book. And I also figured people are also going to say, this guy works for the CIA. This is the truth.
Yeah, I bet you some people thought that.
Oh, I'm sure. But OSS was more horror related. Office of Supernatural Services, it is Allied intelligence versus Nazi occultism. And I want to proceed with others. I had started writing the sequel. And then I got sidetracked with several things. Finishing up the Tatiana series, I wound up getting a job at a school for a few years as the permanent sub, and I never got to it. But the sequels to that are sitting in the back of the mind, and I'm hopefully going to get them in print soon.
With 20 plus books across multiple genres, how do you decide what gets written next?
It is difficult because I've got one of those minds. I've got 23 ideas running around up there. At the moment, I am I just completed over the past couple of weeks. I completed. I completed one novel. What I want for Christmas, which is about a psycho killer dressed up as Santa Claus. Gee, that's never been done before. I'm working on a novel now about a short story about a serial killer, and I've got to go and talk to a taxidermist before I can finish that up. So that's kind of
Oh,
tells you how bizarre that is. But I want to finish off the third book in The World's Gone Dark, which is purely post-apocalyptic. And I want to finish off the Chronicles of Paul zombie series I did. Then I think I'm going to jump between OSS sequels, and I want to start a new zombie series that I've got an idea for.
oh, so you have a lot going on.
Oh, yeah.
You sound very much, I don't know if DAY song, but she does
Uh,
the Monsters of America series, cryptid type series. And I had her on like about a month ago, I think, but she wrapped her series up after, I think it might have been 25 books.
oh,
And she was telling me the list of different projects she had going on. And I'm like, wow, she has a lot.
and it's hard for me to fall asleep at night because okay, I turn on background noise, I lay there in bed, and rather than doze off, the mind is going through 1,000 things. Oh, I got to do this tomorrow. Oh, I forgot about this marketing. Oh, I got to contact this person. Hey, here's an idea for a book.
And here I am. I sat down and tried to write a book, and I haven't even finished the first chapter. But anyway, does your CIA kind of analyst mindset change how you research the paranormal or for your books?
Not so much the mindset. I try to make it as accurate as possible. Every book I write, I have a techno thriller out there. When I'm writing books about time travel, things like that, I want the science, for lack of a better word, to be realistic. I want the paranormal investigations to sound real, partly because that's just the way I am. And I've read so many books where it's, oh, that's not how that goes. And then the rest of the book just isn't any good for me. So I try to do it that way.
Okay. Now that you are a believer, what do
Mhm.
you think is actually out there
You mean in the
in
paranormal realm?
paranormal? Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. When my friend Paul contacted me at that pet forum, he died suddenly. He had no clue he was even sick. So I was thinking, and some of the experiences my second wife had, I was thinking these are people that either died and didn't realize they had died, or people who died in horrendous ways. But there are other people out there who, other people who have visited spirits who may not have died that way. It is difficult because if you believe in any religion, you go to heaven. Yet there's so many of these people down here trying to reach out to us. And they're decent people. My father was a devout Christian, and I doubt this is send them back to earth. This is your hell. So I'm not sure. I do know it exists. I've experienced it, and but if I had to explain it, no clue.
So there's the paranormal, but also what is your thoughts on cryptids? Do you think there's a Bigfoot or do you think there's some of those other cryptids out there?
I always joke with my friends that Bigfoots are nothing more than the pets left behind by the aliens who visit. I am sure there's stuff out there. I think a lot of it is legend. A lot of it, I think, is somebody might mistake something for a cryptid. My The reason I'm doubtful is with all the technology we have today, and all we can get is a picture of Bigfoot blurred walking 400 feet away. It kind of makes me like, I think it's more legendary than actual real.
Okay. Yeah, there's points. I'm still skeptical on the whole cryptids. I am just not really sure. I haven't experienced one it's like myself. Unlike the paranormal, I've actually experienced things. So for me, it's a little, I'm still skeptical, very skeptical on that
Yeah.
end.
And it always breaks me up. These guys go into the woods and start blowing what they say is the mating call of Bigfoot. What are you going to do if he comes running out of the woods all horny? It's going to make for one awesome video.
I didn't really think about that.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, I believe you live in the woods in New Hampshire. Is that kind of a deliberate choice or was it coincidence?
It was more coincidence. My first home in New Hampshire was about 20 miles outside of Concord. And it was one of those neighborhoods where on the weekend and on nights, there was very little traffic. It was a dead end street. And it was great because I'd sit on the front porch writing with a cigar and iced coffee, and you'd hear owls, coyotes, crickets, woodpeckers. Sometimes you'd hear the frogs in the nearby creek. I'm now farther south. I'm near the Massachusetts border, but yeah, we live in a wooded area, and it's funny because there's like a 10-mile stretch of woods about 200 miles wide that runs through the neighborhoods, and there are coyotes out there. You hear them at night. There's critters all over the place. I sit out front writing, and rabbits run by, and chipmunks, and squirrels. It's nice. It's fun.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Now, in your current home, have you ever had anything that you put your finger on or put it in the unexplained column happen?
Not me, but my niece who lives here with us, she is very attuned to it. And every once in a while, she's like, there's bad vibes in the house. And there's like an evilness trying to take over. So she frequently does cleanses of the whole place. So she'll come down and she'll give me a blessed stone that I keep off to the side. She'll sage the place, cleanse it. The house I lived in outside of Concord was definitely haunted. There was something evil there because it was affecting the entire family. And she came up at one point and felt it. And she said that there was, and again, I was a little skeptical of her at this point. She said there was something buried back into the woods that was evil, that was trying to take over. And the landlord who lived in the in-law house side said, yeah, go ahead and cleanse it. And she spent a couple of hours and everyone said they felt so much better. The woman who had lived there before us came to visit the landlady and she said, this house is now clean. I don't feel threatened here anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's sometimes there can be, you never know what's happened in the house previous to you living in it
Oh,
too,
yeah.
or in the land near the house.
Yeah.
Now, what would you tell someone who has just had their first unexplainable experience?
Look at it with an open mind. If you go to a psychic and the psychic is telling you everything you want to hear, it's probably not realistic. But if you feel the presence of somebody who liked you, who you were fond of, who was fond of you and passed away, they are probably coming back to say hello, to check on you. Like I said earlier, I have felt or seen out of the corner of my eye two of my pets that I love dearly and they love me that seem to come in, and they're not causing any mischief like they did when they were alive. It's just, I think they like to come in, say hello, check in with you once in a while. And I'm sure that there's paranormal incidents where people are trying to reach out to you. Hey, I was murdered in this house and nobody knows it.
Yeah, very true.
You know, if
Now,
you're typing on your computer screen and you see the words die come across, okay, maybe it's time to bring in a paranormal expert to cleanse the place.
which book do you hand a first-time reader of your work and why?
In the paranormal realm, I usually give them, if they like the horror dark, I hand them Ghost of Bethlehem Asylum. That is a very dark book. And I think it's very dark because it is actually realistic. This is what happened to these people. And I found myself a little unsettled writing it because I could see this happening. The next one would be Ghosts of Salem Village. It's not as dark, it doesn't have as much horror, but it's very historically accurate. It will give you an idea of what actually happened in Salem in the 1790s.
Wow. So, another thing I wanted to ask you is,
That's right. Happens to me all the time.
so do you have any kind of bucket place locations that you would like to visit when you're in researching or for research purposes or just because you're curious?
I haven't had time lately. I want to get back to it. I used to go around New Hampshire pointing out places that would like the paranormal TV shows, or I can't think of the one with the Leonard Nimoy from the 1970s. I visited the grave of Claude Rains. I visited the locations associated with the couple. God, I can't think of their name. The white woman, the black man who were kidnapped by aliens, and they
Oh,
tried not to tell the story for years, and it eventually came out. There
I
was a
can't think of their names either.
I know. There was a UFO incident somewhere in northern New Hampshire that was still never explained, but there were dozens of people who witnessed it. So I've gone to visit them. I've gone to visit a lot of the sites associated with Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead. I'm a huge zombie fan. But on the top of my bucket list is you can now spend an evening at the Waverly Institute, the famous
Yeah.
haunted institute. You pretty much you go in, they lock the doors, they say, "I'll be back tomorrow morning." That I want to do. I'm bringing a video camera. I'm bringing a friend who will help me videotape things because, and I'm hoping that I see something. I don't want it to be a horror movie. I don't want 12 of us to go in, only the final girl walks out. But I would still love to be there and see that.
Yeah. Waverly is one place I'd like to go. I don't know if I want to spend the night, but I think
Oh,
I would like to at least go. I'm I just started doing the overnight investigations. I picked the Wildwood. There's they seem to have the nicer spirits.
yeah.
A little hesitant on going to some of the darker places.
Oh, I'm Doc. That to me would be like my second wife who was that. I said, "You want to go?" And she's like, "No." That was it. Then she said that,
Um,
but then she's like, "But if you're going, I'm upping your life insurance policies."
where can people find your work and follow what's coming next?
The best place to find my books, they're all on Amazon. Scott M. Baker. Just put in the name, you'll see my page. Everything is available on Kindle Unlimited and in print, except for 4 novellas, zombie novellas I wrote that were too small to put into print. They're only available Kindle Unlimited, but they're all there. I love to put them on Kindle Unlimited because I'm one of those readers that if I don't know a writer, I'll buy it on Kindle or I'll do on Kindle Unlimited. If I like it, then I go out and buy the print version. If I
Yeah.
don't like it, I'm not out of money, and the writer gets paid for whatever pages I read.
Yeah.
And
And
then I
oh,
and then I
uh,
have my Facebook page, which is my main social media, Scott M. Baker's realm of zombies, monsters, and the paranormal.
very
And I
nice.
do not discuss politics or religion. There may be bad jokes, there's a million bad puns, but it's just pure horror, sci-fi, fantasy related.
Okay. And I'll make sure to put all your links in the description below.
Thank you.
And I did want to ask you, have you been to the American Stonehenge, which is, I believe, in New Hampshire?
It is 2 miles away from me, and I haven't been there yet.
You haven't been? Oh,
Part of the reason was I do a TV broadcast, not TV, YouTube, watching weird realities. And I contacted the guy when I first got here, thinking, what a great thing. Do a show live at night from American Stonehenge. And he kept on saying, yeah, that's a great idea. Let me get back to you. And like after 2 years, I just said, the hell with it. I'm not going to bother. And because of that, I haven't gone there yet. I need to, I know, but I think that's the way everybody is. People in Boston never visit the sites in Boston. Even though people come from around the world to see it, you ask them, where's the Paul Revere statue? And Bostonians like, I don't know.
yeah, it's very similar. There's a few local places around here that I literally, I think, live maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 miles from. I don't know if you follow the Little House on the Prairie series, but Alonzo Wilder, his birthplace, and they have a replica farm and all that, is literally 10 minutes from me.
Oh,
And I have never been there.
yeah,
I keep saying I'm going to go. I just
yeah.
never have been there.
The only reason I got to see everything was while I was in college, I worked 2 summers at the Essex Institute, which is where I originally learned about the Salem witch trials. And as a tour guide, I had a free pass to every museum in Massachusetts. So I'm a college student. I don't have money, but I can get into these places for free. So I just like on my days off, I just travel around the state seeing things.
Wow. That must be nice.
It was fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of places that I would like to go. I have a big long bucket list of
Oh,
places.
I've always, if I had more money, I would rent an RV for 6 months and then just drive across country. So many historical sites I want to see that
Yeah.
I've never gotten to. Battle of Little Bighorn, Devil's Tower from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's tons of places that I'd love to do the same thing.
Once I was on a business trip to Colorado and I took several days off and I went to the Stanley Hotel, which was the basis for The Shining.
Even
And it's funny because in the movie, you think it's isolated from everything. And as I'm driving towards it, there's a McDonald's on this side, there's a Burger King over here, and then you turn off, and then there it is on the hill. But I sat out front and wrote a chapter of my vampire novels just to say I did some writing at the Stanley Hotel. That
that's
was like
cool.
that was like one of the coolest days for me.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. Are you going, do you have any upcoming conferences that you're attending or?
Yes, Monster Expo in July in Nashua, New Hampshire. I'm doing the main paranormal. Let's see. Yeah, I'm doing the main paranormal convention in August. I'm doing the Vermont Paranormal in August. In September, I'm doing the Maine Paranormal. And then in September, I'm doing the Granite State Comic Con in Manchester, which is a 45-minute drive from me.
Wow. Yeah. So you're right now. I've taking it slow. I'm growing my channel this year. I did
Right.
the Vermont horror earlier with you were at, but
Yeah.
taking it slow for 2026. I
Yeah.
do want to make it next year though to the main. HorrorCon
It's
in
it
Augusta. That is on my to-do list for next year.
it is good. I've done dozens of conventions over the years, and the ones I keep on going back to are the ones that are the best organized, have the best attendance, and where I do really good on sales.
Yeah.
I love the Vermont sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. That is just one minute you got a Dalek driving by you, then the next minute somebody comes by looking like Frankenstein or
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees.
It's just a completely different atmosphere with this, with the multiple
Yeah,
different genres kind of combining.
yeah.
I thought it was so cool. Yeah, you were right. You'd have someone dressed up as a Star Wars character, and then the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle would be walking by you next.
And I love getting selfies with the cosplayers. They make those conventions. And then I just
Yeah,
post them on my Facebook and Twitter account.
yeah, yeah. It was the first time that was the first horror paranormal conference I've done. I've done tons of ed tech conferences, but I had never done one. That was the first one I had done.
And
So,
it's growing. When I did it 3 years ago, the only room was the big main hall. And then you go upstairs to where the panels were. Now it's the big room, it's the side rooms, it's the panels upstairs. It's
yeah, it's
growing.
huge.
Yeah,
It's huge. I thought it was a lot bigger than I was expecting
yeah.
it to be when I went.
And parking is free, which is great.
Yep, yep.
And there's a Dunkin' Donuts right across the road. So before I go and sell books, I get myself a large iced coffee.
I thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having
And
me.
anytime. It was nice to catch up. We had met at the Vermont Expo there, the Vermont one, and I'm glad that you were able to come on. We could chat for a little while. So,
Jim.
folks, links to Scott's books will be in the description below. And if you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you never miss an episode. We drop new episodes every Wednesday and Saturday. And if you want to, I do have a Discord. The link will be in the description below. And remember, history never truly dies. It just finds new ways to haunt us. Until next time, keep digging into the darkness. Yeah.